One friends old and new. Welcome to Finding the Wall, a wholly unserious F1 podcast. I am Jess, a new but extremely enthusiastic Formula One fan.
And I am Gabe, an old and grizzled, I've heard, Formula One watcher of 35 years.
You are old and grizzled.
Very old and grizzled.
What makes somebody grizzled?
I don't know what makes someone grizzled. I think it's just going through a lot and being jaded.
Yeah, you've seen some shit.
I have seen some shit. I've survived a lot of stuff, and I wish I hadn't.
Lived a life.
Yeah. Wow, this got dark fast.
Yeah, it did.
Damn.
It's been that kind of day.
It's been a day.
Would you like to yap about Barcelona?
We should yap about Barcelona. How was your first Circuit de Barcelona experience?
So apparently, Barcelona was a lot more eventful than former Barcelonas.
Yes.
Because I had kind of went into it expecting a little more boring of a race. But this was a cunty race.
Yeah, the nerves were out on display.
I had a really good time.
Yeah.
And I felt terrible on Sunday. Like I had some sort of like food poisoning, but I was still like, we're going to watch the race. And it was the only good part about my weekend was those couple of hours watching the boys go around in circles. But it was great. So I had a good time. I had a very good time.
Yeah, it was more eventful than normal. Barcelona is that kind of thing where like it is not the procession that Monaco usually is, but it's also kind of a set race, right?
Yeah.
Like they start and then they do a lot of like their shenanigans in the first 4 laps, and then everybody gets into a rhythm, and it's all about tire management.
Well, you know what happens when you shenan once?
Yeah.
And you shenan again.
Exactly.
Sorry, it's a terrible joke. Gotta be careful.
I
when
hope
you
everyone
shenan.
listening forgives you. I sure won't.
I hope they don't. But yeah, the first part of the race was interesting. I'm a big fan of tire strategy. So watching the like 2 or 3 pit stops was interesting. I wasn't super expecting that because I figured in this type of race, 66 laps, that there would be like a 1, maybe 2 pit stop for most people. But I didn't realize like how much this track tears up tires.
Yeah.
Why?
It is all this. It's always a combination of multiple factors, right? The general like weather of the place. If it's really hot in Barcelona, it was really hot.
It was so hot,
especially this weekend.
I felt really bad for them because they like you could see just sweat pouring out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil which one. There will be races for the drivers that are worse than that. But there are races where they're gonna sweat a lot more. So it's a bit of just weather, atmospheric conditions, and how hot it is, and etc. But this circuit has a lot of like medium speed and high speed corners, and they are the ones that will eat through tires a lot more. And I'm trying to remember from memory now, but if I recall correctly, they also have this thing where most of the high speed and medium speed corners are to one side, I think to the right, and a lot of the slow speed corners are to the left. And that means that you have this uneven degradation of the tires, where the left side of the car, if you're turning right, the left tires are going to bear the brunt of like the weight of the car trying to, with the centrifugal force pushing the car out of the track. So they bear that load and they degrade faster.
And Barcelona used to be the test track, correct?
Yes, because it has such a well-rounded combination of corners.
Gotcha.
You have slow corners, you have high corners, you have elevation gain, you have declives, like you have all this things that you're gonna find throughout the calendar. So you have this test tracks are usually chosen by being a track where like if your car does well here, you're gonna do well anywhere else. Because these tracks assemble like characteristics of every other track. Save for a few outliers. There's no track like Monaco. There's no track like Spa. But in general, you have enough data points by going around that track.
Okay. I mean, it was an interesting race up until the safety car.
Yeah.
I mean, but it wasn't like, whoa, crazy.
No.
But there were some things happening. Like we're gonna talk about that safety car and what happened in just a second. But There were some funny things happening up until that. Like, for instance, like Alex Albon was just chewing through those wings. Like, I think he went through both
Man had a bad day.
spares of wings. And Liam Lawson was just literally playing Mario Kart like the whole time.
He was gonna get, be the most aggressive driver on track, if not for stuff that happened after the safety car.
Yeah. Oh, and then, of course, like Nico Hulkenberg.
Oh, yeah.
Having
the legend.
an amazing race.
Astounding.
It was so good.
I have no idea where that pace came from, especially there are things about Barcelona's being so tire dependent that by qualifying behind, you might actually get an advantage in strategy. Which is kind of weird. But yeah, so he had an amazing start.
It was great.
Got 5 positions out alone.
Out the gate, yeah.
Which is something interesting about the start on this race when we were looking at the replays, and I saw that there's you have the first group that all kind of clumped up. At some point, we had in the 3 drivers abreast on hitting the first corner, which is interesting. So you had these clumps. There was one clump ahead where 5 cars were just together, and then two, 3 stragglers following behind each other, and then another clump. And I don't remember ever seeing a start that was there's this one big cohort at the front, a few drops of drivers going back, and then another big thing. And that's what I think Nico did. He kind of went around the first group that had poor starts for whatever reason. So he had an amazing start and then set his own pace. And
good for Nico Hulkenberg in a green wheelie bin, which is what I've heard it called.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't know anything about Nico Hulkenberg, but then after the race, I was just like, let me look into some things about Nico Hulkenberg. Good for him.
Good for him.
Good for him.
How much do you have in your heart now that he should get his first podium ever? So you're not that.
I'm
invested.
not quite there yet.
Okay.
He had a really good race though.
Yeah.
Maybe a few more of those, and I would just be like, let's see him on.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Because you know that he's the driver with the most amount of Grand Prix who had never gotten podium.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, poor guy. Okay.
See?
Maybe now I do want him to podium.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know that if you had that information already.
Didn't.
Okay,
I didn't.
so yeah. So he has raced the most races without ever getting the podium. And now he's 5th, which I think is his best result ever.
Wow. How long has he been racing?
Since I was a child. No. Nico is 73 years old.
I was like, we're old.
Yeah.
So.
No. He started racing early 2010s.
Oh.
I think.
So it's been a minute.
Yeah, he has a lot of races under his belt.
Oh, okay.
He's not a new driver. He's 35, 36, something like that.
Good for Nico Hulkenberg. I still don't see myself rooting for a Kick Sauber ever.
Yeah, maybe next year as Audi.
Maybe.
That's a cooler name.
Maybe. I just Stake F1 team Kick Sauber is absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But good for Nico. But so that was the first part of the race. Let's get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
Because holy shit.
And then Kimi Antonelli breaks again.
Kimi Antonelli breaks again. Oh my God. Poor Kimi. And it was not his fault. The Mercedes just stopped again.
Mm-hmm.
Poor thing. But I will tell you that I am a Max Verstappen hater, Red Bull hater through and through. You know this.
Uh-huh.
The first time we watched a race, I said, I don't think I like Red Bull. And you said, uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
You said
interesting.
And you didn't try to make me like or hate any group. You've been very good about that. I was like, I don't think I like this Red Bull. And I don't think I like Max Verstappen. And you were just like, uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no feelings.
Well, then when we finally got to talking about it, you were like, yeah, the more you learn about Red Bull, the more you will dislike them. And I was just like, well, and now it's fun.
Yeah.
Now it's fun to dislike them. But one thing that you did tell me very early on is that while it is fun to dislike Red Bull, Max Verstappen is maybe the best race car driver to ever do it.
Mm-hmm.
So gonna have a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, challenge accepted.
Mm-hmm.
But over the past few races, it's fun to watch him race. And even though I am a McLaren girly through and through, it is fun to watch Max Verstappen race. And he's been so almost like funny
Yeah.
and, dare I say it, a little bit charming
Yeah.
recently, especially in Monaco when he was talking about the shifting being like Monaco 1973, and then in this race he
Upgraded.
upgraded, yeah, 70, 73, maybe 74.
Whoa.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I'm being a little too hard on Max Verstappen because he is a great race car driver and he is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he has gotten 1 charisma point for every title so far.
Yeah.
He's up to 8.
I think it's because he's like a little older now, a little more mature.
Yeah.
And you and I had this conversation during the race. He was saying some really funny things, and the way he's just very smart and aggressive, and he takes risks, but he can back up what he's doing because he's that good of a driver. Other people cannot do that. They would have run into 14 different walls.
Yeah.
But no, he can do it.
There's this beauty in seeing someone do a thing that no one else can.
Yeah.
I think it is proven at this point, as proven as it can possibly be, that no one else on that Red Bull, like if you put them in that Red Bull car, can get P3.
Yeah, poor Yuki Tsunoda can't even handle those cars.
Yeah, so and then you see him do that like every time with a consistency and a relentlessness that is just admirable.
It is admirable. I begrudgingly respect Max Verstappen a lot. And you and I were having this whole conversation in the middle of the race. Then that safety car happens.
Yeah.
And then Max goes off the rails after the safety car. And do you want to narrate what actually happened?
So it was
quickly.
It was a lot of things, right? So Red Bull was on this different strategy, going for 3 stops instead of 2. They bet on it, and it was paying off. Like he had newer tires. I think it was unlikely that he was gonna catch up to McLaren. I don't think he was gonna win the race, but he made them
solidly
pause.
P3.
Yeah,
solidly
but also
P3.
he got the best car to react to him.
Yeah,
which is impressive, right?
We were so impressed.
Yeah,
we were so impressed.
Yeah, so the strategy was working. He was getting this unquestionable P3. Had this potential like vying for second place if something happened, whatever. Cool, everything's going up fine. And then Kimi stops, safety car, and then a series of largely unrelated things kind of come together. One is everyone, when that safety car happens, will instinctively think about stopping.
Yeah, which a lot of them did.
Yeah, a lot of them did. And because 99% of the time it makes sense for you to stop. The thing that is kind of interesting is, why is it that Red Bull, knowing that they didn't have another good tire to put on the car, stopped anyway?
Why bring him back in? Yep.
Right?
So he was already pissed off. That whole exchange where he's like, "What are these hard tires?
Yeah.
What did you do?"
Yeah, and they're like, "We didn't have any other ones," which is a valid excuse for not putting other tires on. But why did you stop?
Why? Yeah.
And they have, because it's that kind of, Red Bull is known for making very bold strategy choices, and a conservative approach would be like, we don't stop.
Yep. And
McLaren's going to get new tires, and they're probably going to eat our lunch, but we have position.
Still P3.
Still P3.
Yep.
Right? But Red Bull was just like, no, new tires on.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get new tires, and the only chance that we have to catching up then is new tires on, but then it's our tire.
Yep.
So Red Bull made the thing about like bold calls is that if they work, it's a bold call. If they don't, it's a stupid call.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're going to be bold, and they ended up being dumb.
Yeah.
So hard tires.
Yeah.
Right? And then he comes out pissed.
So mad.
And then tries to warm up the tires as much as he can. Immediately after restart, he oversteers a little bit, has to get control, and then Leclerc just passes him.
Yep.
And he starts complaining that Leclerc hit him. She's like, he did not.
No,
Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
It was fine.
And everything unraveled from there.
Yep. And then
everything somehow got worse.
Yeah. So then how did it actually happen? So like he went to overtake George Russell.
Mm-hmm.
They got a little too close. He had to go off track in order to not wreck with him.
Yeah.
And then the Red Bull pit said, give George give the position back, which usually, preemptively you just give the position back so that you don't get penalized for it. But afterwards, the FIA said that they weren't going to tell him to give the position back.
But Red Bull didn't know that.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, once again, they are not known for even when it's egregious that they should make that call, they're not really known for making that call.
So when it came up over the radio, like, give George the position back, and I was just like, oh no.
Yeah, no.
Because he's not going to do that. He's already pissed because of the hard tires. And
he's already pissed because of the hard tires.
Smoke coming out of his ears.
He's pissed because he thinks Leclerc hit him. Mm-hmm. He's pissed for having almost lost 2 positions in one straight, because like Leclerc passes him, and then he tries to kind of like go, he tries to fight the corner with Leclerc. But that's when Russell does his aggressive move and kind of dive bombs on the inside. And then, Verstappen can't make the corner anymore because he can't get to the apex. So he needs to go outside. In the span of however long that straight is, like 10 seconds.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
10, 15 seconds from his kind of like wobbliness, his entire race crumbled.
Yeah.
So
then he was told to give the position back to Russell. Russell went to go around him. And then Max was like, you know what? Never mind. Nah, we're not doing that. And then he hits him. And it could have been really bad. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't want to sit here and be, claiming that Max Verstappen is this and this and this and that. I never met the guy. Don't want to.
I would. I think it'd be cool.
We talked about this a little bit, but it's this, he doesn't handle just adversity well. As mentally strong as he is, and like, if things don't go his way, he will
have a tantrum.
Push to be very more charitable, he will push to the limit. And he's very, very good at getting to the limit in a way that is, God damn it, what's the expression I'm looking for? With plausible deniability.
Right.
So he's very good at like crashing into George in a way that you can't definitively from the outside be like, that was on purpose.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that quality of his is what is a big factor in what makes him so divisive. Is that if you like him, you see that as this desire for winning and for besting everyone else that is very admirable at that level of the sport. If you don't, he's just annoying.
Yeah.
He's irresponsible and annoying, and he reminds you of all the worst people in your life. Right?
So when that happened, all of my journey of, maybe I'm being too hard on Max Verstappen, out the window.
Yeah.
I was just like...
Yeah, you crashed. You went through all of the emotions.
Yep. The universe was like, oh, you're being charitable? Mm-hmm. No, you don't need to do that. And so now I have fun hating him again.
Yeah.
So hooray for me.
Yeah. The thing is, my own personal take, which is not the truth at all, is that was an intentional bump.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's my...
They all
breaks.
know it was an intentional bump. Like, afterwards, he wouldn't even say anything about it.
No, yeah.
And George Russell said that's just how he races. That's how Max Verstappen races.
And then Max Verstappen said, got a tissue. And then he later... and then starts the whole battle of quotes that is funny but ultimately meaningless.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to figure out what they're actually thinking or how that is all going to boil over, if at all, in Montreal. Like none of that matters.
But he got penalized for it.
Yes.
Automatically, but then he got the 10-second penalty, which put him ending up in 5th to 10th. And then afterwards, he got the 3-point penalty on his super license.
Yeah. Which to me is the weirdest part of all of this. Everything up until that point is kind of like, I hadn't seen this in a while, but it's par for the course. When the 10-second penalty came out, a lot of people were surprised at how lenient that was.
Yeah.
But then the 3 points.
Yeah.
So,
but he now has 11 points on his license for the next month. I think some will drop
the next
off.
2 races.
Yeah. So he's got to be really careful, which he probably won't be, to not get any more points on his license. But he doesn't get a lot of points like normally, right?
I mean, he was at 8, which is one of the highest tallies.
Oh.
And the thing is, points can happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like it is not always when you're being aggressive or disrespectful. Sometimes it's just to get into an accident and you're deemed to be, it was your so I don't know. I don't know. There's so many unanswerable questions.
Yeah.
Like, so he has really messed with his chances of getting a title this year.
Yeah.
So will that make him mellow out? Like now I don't really have anything to fight for anymore. Like he took a big hit.
Or is it going to put him in the other direction?
Impossible to know.
He's going to be like Supermax.
Yeah, and it could be either.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell like what the ramifications will be, but he might get one in Montreal. Like Montreal is not to spoil how Montreal usually is, but it is a tricky circuit.
But he still got driver of the day.
Very, very funny.
So funny.
Even though he robbed Nico Hulkenberg of his his more than well-deserved driver of the day.
So deserved for Nico to have it, but he did not get it.
But that was not the funniest option. The funniest choice by far was Max Verstappen, the driver of the day.
Yeah, the universe sometimes. When I saw that he got driver of the day, I guffawed. I felt terrible, but I was just like, oh no. Was there anything that you learned from this race?
I don't think so.
I mean, you've been seeing it a long time.
Yeah.
There was one thing that I learned.
Oh, did you learn?
That was really funny. I learned that there are fake out pit stops.
Yes.
So you could have your pit crew come out to make McLaren think that Red Bull's about to have a pit. And then they stay out for like 10 to 15 seconds and then they go back in.
Yeah. Yeah. I may be completely wrong about this, but if I remember correctly, there are limits to how much of a fake out you can do. Like, I don't know if it's how much time you need to spend outside. I don't know if it's this whole like, don't bring your tires out. Like if you bring your tires out and you get them out of the blanket, you got to stop. Like if I remember correctly, there are limits.
There has to be some sort of regulation on that.
How much you can actually fake it.
I'd be faking out pit stops all the time otherwise.
Yeah. But it is a thing that they have in their back pocket.
That made me really happy.
Yeah.
And especially because Red Bull was trying to do it, and I was just like, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Because on top of everything, it's also Formula One is also mind games.
Yeah. That's why I love it.
Mind games between the drivers, mind games between the teams.
I'm going to make a presentation that's like why F1 is the cuntiest sport.
Yeah.
It's great. But yeah, that's the main thing that I learned. It was so much fun. I really liked watching the race. It was great.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see a race that was fine. Up until lap 56, fine.
And then you had a sprint.
It wasn't a boring race. It wasn't an amazing race. It's fine. It's fine. It was a very normal Barcelona. And then the last 10 laps, like so much happened in some wild ways that it's very, very, very and heavy race.
Yeah.
You could have skipped most of it.
I really enjoyed it. It was great.
It was a good race.
Was there intrigue this week?
There were 33 different Max Verstappen shaped intrigues that happened this week.
There was.
There was this whole thing about like, was it on purpose or not? And based on that, was the penalty too lenient? Was the penalty too harsh?
A lot of people were saying he should have been disqualified for that because it was a blatant. And of course, for us, it's like, well, of course he did it on purpose. Even George Russell was like, that's just the way he goes racing. Yeah. Which is an interesting, very British, posh turn of phrase because, of course, George Russell says that. But that's just the way he does it. But it's hard to prove. And if you actually DQ'd him, then that would be, there would be a lot of fallout from that.
Yeah, it's, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that it was on purpose if you're going to DQ him. And that's, right, the burden of proof needs to be very high, understandably so. And it kind of goes back to the whole thing of like Verstappen is really good at doing the thing in a way that looks extremely egregious and intentional, but can't be proven.
Yeah.
Right? So we're never going to know if he did it on purpose. It's the thing about like, if he didn't do it on purpose, it is the kind of mistake that he doesn't make.
Yeah.
He got distracted. He misjudged the like Max Verstappen misjudged, but it's the two of us sitting here thousands of miles away about someone that we don't know, trying to figure out what they did. So the intrigue is that, and like everything that comes from that is it brings back the whole like, is the FIA too kind of Verstappen because of who he is? That is at least a 5-year-old intrigue that every year comes back at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the intrigue is what about Max Verstappen once again?
I have some intrigue.
Yeah.
So, if the listeners out there watch the race, they realize that our favorite billionaire Nepo baby, Lance Stroll, was not racing on Sunday.
No.
He did qualify. He qualified to Q2, and then he retired from the race. They said that from pain in his hand. But it did come out afterwards that after Q2, he apparently had an absolute shit fit in the garage and was cursing at the team and smashing things and throwing things around. And it was all kind of rumors, but then someone apparently didn't exactly see him in the garage, but like either heard what was going on or saw a little bit of it. And they asked a person from the team a little bit later, and then the person from the team, who should have just said nothing, said Lance was upset. And so now it's like, oh, he totally did that. He 100% did that shit, and that's why he wasn't racing. But they did come out with a statement later and said that he's been in a lot of pain from his wrist problems from breaking his wrist in 2023, I believe it was. And he's been having a lot of pain, and he hasn't wanted to miss a race, but now he had to have like emergency surgery to fix something again. And I don't like Lance Stroll, but I don't want anybody to like be in pain. But hearing that he kind of went apeshit on people and was actually like cursing at his own team, I'm like, I don't like him. I really don't.
Yeah.
But they did say that the two incidents were unrelated, like him having his fit and then him not racing.
Yeah.
They tried to say that the two are not related. But I think this would be a wonderful time for him to no longer race.
So, yeah. It's
a great out.
It is a great out. It is absolutely a great out.
If he wants to save some face.
Yeah. The team is being weirdly coy about like even considering the possibility of him not racing.
Well, Daddy gives so much money.
But it's really weird because, he is injured.
Yeah.
And the team is treating it as like, no, he's definitely going to be there for Montreal.
Yeah, which even if I loved the guy, he shouldn't be there in Montreal after having surgery. Like he shouldn't have come back so quickly when he had the surgery the first time.
Yeah, it like we are 11 days away from the first day of on-track activity, right? So, and if he's getting surgery, it is really weird that he'd come back. And the team is not even saying like, we're going to assess the situation and figure out what to do for Montreal, but we have a team of reserve drivers that are ready to, they're just going to be like, no, plan A is Lance. And I'm like, okay, I know that. Yeah. What about, like, no, but plan A is Lance.
But they're going to do that until he's not, until he's not, they're not going to undermine their quote unquote star driver or whatever.
Yeah, but it's weird. I don't know. Yes, but it's really weird that they're just not even considering the possible, like every other time that has happened, I think just talks about injury.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna see
so
how they're
weird.
working. Like in Formula One and other sports, just go. We're gonna see how he does.
Does he not want anybody to know that he, is human and gets injuries like other people?
Yeah, very weird.
It's odd.
Everything about that is very weird. I don't think he got injured by punching the desk somewhere. I don't think that's the case. But everything since the announcement of his withdrawal has been very weird.
Yeah. It would be a good out, though. I did watch a video on the YouTubes from the guy that I really like. I think his name is Law VS. But he was talking about how now Aston Martin has a lot of big name sponsors that they did not have before. And they have Adrian Newey, who is going to be designing their 2026 car. And there's a lot more investment going into the team that he's hearing that they are getting more pressure to not have Lance Stroll driving.
Oh, I can see that. I don't know what they're going to do with their pairing because Lance Stroll is not up to par.
No.
And Alonso, as good as he is also like 42 years old.
But he got points this time. I was very excited for him to get points in Barcelona.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz didn't do much.
No.
But
yeah, so they need to figure out what they're going to do with their drivers. You have Adrian Newey and no one to race your car.
Yeah.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
So who knows what they're going to do. But we might be in this situation of having, someone to run for Aston Martin, someone else to run for Aston Martin in Montreal. And what could probably be the coolest, funniest ramification of all the Verstappen stuff is if he does get suspended. What do you do if you're Red Bull?
Call up Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
And just have him. Can I just say, I fucking love Valtteri Bottas.
What makes it such a strong love?
He is so funny. I now follow him on Instagram. He is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I've never even seen the man race because he's been a reserve driver for he's reserve driver for like 3 different teams, right? But it's mostly Mercedes.
But the contract stipulates that he can race for any team that uses Mercedes engines.
Oh.
So like he could actually replace Lance Stroll.
Do it. Oh my God. Because I want to see him race. I've watched like some of the older races, but he's just great and I love him.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, Lance Stroll being a piss baby, having a fit was my intrigue this week.
That is big intrigue.
Yeah, it's good intrigue.
Who knows what's going to happen to the roster?
It's
for the next couple of races.
So exciting. So fun. I love Formula One. Shall we get to our Finding the Wall Championship?
We should absolutely get it
awards.
To our awards.
These are our awards that we give out every week for every race for our very own championship cups. So the very first one is anger management. So Gabe, who gets your anger management who gets your anger management award this week? I wonder who it could be.
Oh, well, it I was gonna try to make a joke, but there's no joke to be made.
There's no joke.
It is Max Verstappen.
It's Max for me too.
No one was angrier anywhere in the world.
Completely agree.
There's been no on that Sunday. He was the most pissed off person on the planet.
Flames. Yeah. On the side of his face.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was. Yeah. I've never seen. It was unexpected for me because
you had never had that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd never seen him really go crazy like that, and so for me it was fun. I hate that George Russell got the brunt of it, but he was fine. I'm glad that he was okay because I do love George Russell.
Yeah, but Russell has been his main nemesis for the last year or so.
I know.
So he chose well.
Well, when we were watching the race, And I was like, oh, I wonder how long it's going to take for Verstappen to get back after that pit, getting his hard tires. I wonder how long it's going to take him to get back up to podium position, because I knew that he was going to try.
Yeah.
And he did. Like, he got around a few people really easily. And then when you were like, yeah, but now he has to get around, he's got to get around George Russell, and George Russell fucking hates him. And I was just like, oh, I love George Russell even more. Oh, I love George Russell so much. But then that whole thing happened, and
The
angriest man alive.
He was the angriest man
10
alive.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who is your most cursed?
Wait, was that the first time that we have an agreement on our vote? I think it might be.
It might be.
Yeah. Which
Maybe,
is
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Good for Max Verstappen for
Max Verstappen.
from being unanimous. And good on us for having our own opinions.
The angriest man alive.
Angriest man alive, yeah. Most cursed. For me, it was Tsunoda. For
Starting from 40th place again.
Yeah, the whole weekend.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
It was having damage at qualifying, and then never finding the car, and then having a bad race anyway. So and it being on the coattails of like two not great performances. So everybody's already looking at him going,
he basically has the
something.
guillotine over his head already. Yeah, I feel bad for the guy.
So, and then on top of that, having especially at Barcelona, if your qualifying gets ruined by something, that's probably your race.
Yeah,
not 100% the case, because Hulkenberg has proven that you can do whatever, anything your heart desires.
Do it.
But yeah, he was the most, not for any particular situation, just like everything taken holistically. Tsunoda was my most cursed.
My most cursed was Kimi Antonelli.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Like the Mercedes just stopped again.
Again. Very concerning.
Yeah. Like, this is like his third DNF?
I think it is his third DNF, but his Mercedes like third engine failure.
Yes.
In a row.
And so I felt really bad for him. And I'm like, what is going on with these cars? That's not really a Mercedes-like thing to happen, right?
No, they're usually very reliable.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, Mercedes is my second favorite team. So I was like, is it Ferrari or is it Mercedes? I think Mercedes is my second favorite team, because I love George Russell so much more than I like either Hamilton or Leclerc.
How concerned are you for a possible McLaren engine failure? Because they use Mercedes engines.
No, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen?
No.
You haven't already figured it out?
Andrea Stella says no. He would not let that happen.
Yeah, he was going to go. You're going to be on the back of that car fixing that engine.
While they're going around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen. He's going to know beforehand if his spidey senses will go and be like, something is wrong with the car.
Okay.
And then they will fix it.
Good to know. I'll be very mad.
Yep.
But okay, so good to that is out of there. All right.
What about the Cuntiest comms?
The Cuntiest comms. I had one for the race itself, but I changed it for the cool down room.
Oh.
With Norris, because the cool downs when they actually see stuff that happened in the race that was not happening to them.
Yeah. I love the cool down room. I wish that it was longer.
Yeah. So they see the Verstappen crash into Russell, and Norris goes like, "Oh, I've done that before in Mario Kart." And that's
That's great.
That's a very good comment.
Yeah.
I don't think he was necessarily cunty, but also it wasn't not cunty.
It wasn't not cunty. It counts.
It is very entertaining.
My Cuntiest comms came kind of early on in the race, because George Russell was complaining about braking. And then over the comms, it's like, George, concentrate.
That was gonna be my choice until I saw Norris being like, I've done that in Mario Kart.
I cackled a little bit, like, George, concentrate.
George, please. George, you don't have to be the steward every single time.
He's such a steward. It is so funny.
All the
oh my
time.
goodness. And in qualifying, when he said, it looks like rain, like it looks like some dark clouds happening. And
yeah, the clouds were like 7 miles away, going in the other direction.
It is not going to rain, George. But then the memes after that of George being a weatherman were stellar. Stellar. But yeah, so my Cuntiest comment, George, concentrate.
George, please shut the fuck up.
What about best overtake?
Not a lot. Not a lot, in my humble opinion. I had just Leclerc and Russell on lap 1, like right at the start.
That's a good one.
Because lap 1 overtakes are nice to look at.
Yeah.
Because everything's so packed.
Yep. There's a lot of traffic in that turn 1.
That was the only one that caught my attention as being like really cool. That being said, not because of the overtake itself, but Nico Hulkenberg getting past Hamilton.
That was mine.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So my best overtake was Hulkenberg getting past Hamilton.
Yeah.
Because he's thinking to himself, I can't imagine what's going through Hulkenberg's head, like going around, like overtaking Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, I think
get that 5th spot.
I think that was the most exciting overtake from the perspective of the driver the entire race. No other driver has been so excited for one overtake than Nico Hulkenberg getting 5th place on a Ferrari driven by Hamilton on the last lap.
Yeah, that was great.
Like, he must have felt elated, like over the moon.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I was very happy for him. Yeah. Best wall found.
The best wall found is the George Russell wall that Max Verstappen found.
He found it.
He found the George Russell wall. That's by far the best wall found.
We didn't really have any crashes.
No
actual walls found.
No.
This time around, which is good because that means that less chance for people to get hurt. We never want people to get hurt. But my best wall found, it's really stupid. It was Lando Norris. It was after the race.
Oh.
He's walking back.
Oh, yeah. You sent me that, yeah.
So Lando Norris was walking back into the McLaren what do you call their like building on site?
God damn it, I forgot.
They're called something.
So they used to be the motorhomes. Because they were actual motorhomes. Now I don't actually know I forgot what they actually called them. But you can call them a motorhome.
He was walking.
We're old.
Yeah, he was walking back into the McLaren motorhome afterwards, and he got kind of distracted and he looked around and then he just ran straight into the door.
That's a good wall found.
It was really funny. So I was like, oh, the only wall found at Barcelona was Lando Norris with his face.
Yeah, we needed to be, weirdly enough, we needed to be creative here.
Yeah. I can always be creative with these things.
Yeah, because other than that, I think the only person who even went off track was Alonso, right?
Yeah, I think he went into the gravel just a little bit, and then when Kimi stopped, he was in the gravel, but he didn't actually hit. Yeah,
because he went into the gravel because his car had broken down, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So like the only person who even leave the track by accident was Alonso, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, weirdly uneventful race where some very exciting stuff happened.
It was the craziest uneventful race I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Do you have any expectations for Montreal?
I don't. I know that the Wall of Champions is part of Montreal.
Yeah.
So like our podcast cover art is the Wall of Champions when I was making that. So I've heard about the Wall of Champions. I don't really know much else about Montreal. So I'm excited to learn about it. I usually, in the days leading up to the race and then on Thursday when all of everything gets there, and the festivities start, that's when I really start learning about that track. And I'll usually watch highlights from races past and things like that. So, but I don't really have, other than Wall of Champions that I know people hit all the time. So we might have some best walls found. I hope everyone is okay. But we might have some best walls found the next cycle.
Yeah, probably. All right. Well, then I'm very excited to experience Montreal with you
Me too.
for your very first time.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. I have some friends that are actually going.
Oh, nice.
And we looked into tickets, but it was like too soon to go. But we're going to go to a Formula One race. Imagine like finding the wall on location.
On location.
We're going to do it.
Yelling at Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
And at Piastri, but for very different reasons.
Yeah. I wonder what kind of crop tops I can get to wear to the race. That's my whole thing now. F1 crop tops.
Formula 1 crop tops.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Everybody needs a thing. For me, it's Formula 1 crop tops. But yeah, that was Barcelona. So in my day job, everybody, so I work in video games. And so I have a video game podcast called Stupid Little Games, where we talk about all things gaming from the inside out. And each week I sit down with various insiders from the game industry. We talk about our current gaming obsessions. We tell stories from projects past and present. And then we play a stupid little game that I write for each guest. So if you're interested in video games, then search for Stupid Little Games wherever you get your podcast. And it's part of this stupid little podcast network that we have here. Mm-hmm. That's our little family. If you want to help us out, if you want to like and subscribe to this podcast, that really it does help us out a lot.
And leave a comment.
If you leave a comment, that would be extra super good.
Wow, you'd be so nice as a human being if you left a comment.
It does get us in the algorithm.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out to the folks in Brazil.
Yeah.
Like our number one listenership is in the United States, but our number two is Brazil.
Is in Brazil.
So hello.
I have no idea how many of them are my friends, but I hope it's all of them. And if you're in Brazil listening to this, but you're not my friend yet, hit me up.
Yeah. We're just going to do one all in Portuguese.
Oh, yeah.
I don't understand Portuguese, so like I'll talk to you and then you'll just answer in Portuguese.
You gotta, And then you'll look at me very dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
I would be down.
But yes, leaving us
Or better yet, sorry, I just have an amazing idea.
Yeah, what is
we can do a Portuguese version of this where I make both my voice and your voice. I translate the episode, but I make your voice. It'd be awesome.
That would be interesting.
That would be horrible.
Or I just, I was going to say learn Portuguese, but...
Nah.
The only
Me dubbing you is way funnier.
I know Portuguese curse words, thanks to you.
Mm-hmm.
I know lots of horrible things that I can't say.
Very bad ones.
But that's the best thing to learn in another language is learn its curse words. But yeah, so you can follow me on Blue Sky. I am caketease.bsky.social. I'm on there. I talk F1. I talk video games. I talk, everything. And you can't follow Gabe.
No, but if you have anything to say to me, say to Jess on Blue Sky.
Say it to me and I'll tell him.
She'll relay the message.
I will tell him because you're not really online anymore. And I am really, really envious of that. Mm-hmm. I'm super envious of that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is today's episode. Thank you everybody for listening wherever you are in any country.
But especially Brazil.
And especially Brazil. And we'll see you after Montreal. This podcast is part of the Stupid Little Podcast Network. It is hosted and edited by Gabe Koski and Jess Perdue. Theme music is by the super talented Baird Russell. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next round.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.